Hi, I'm Deb. I think I am the last of the She Spoke artists to do my video here for the birthing room. I was just reflecting on what Chantal had mentioned or what Jessica mentioned in relation to Chantal and her doubts about being able to be an artist because she hadn't gone to art school. And for me, it wasn't a doubt so much as in relation to having a studio and being at art school, is that I always felt like I didn't have a real art school experience because I didn't get the studio at the art school. So having a studio space has been really important for me, and I guess particularly when my children were younger and being a parent, being able to carve out that time away from home, and or at least just carve out that time whether it was at home or not, was super important. And yeah, so I've put together a slideshow showing some images of past studios and just a few comments that I've made about the spaces and how they have what they've provided for me, I guess. And also, yes, one thing that I was going to mention was about how when I did go to art school, we did have a discussion about the role of the studio and how that space could actually just be a place in your head, that you don't actually, it doesn't have to be a physical space. So I think that's an interesting concept to have a think about. Anyway, hopefully this little technological foray and adventure for me in doing video and PowerPoint works. Okay, so I just mentioned that I felt that I lacked something in my art school experience because I didn't get a studio space at art school, and that was because I was part-time rather than a full-time student. So of course I had to work at home, and this is one of the spaces that I used at home. And then I did have a couple of studio spaces away from home, and then after my relationship broke up, I needed a space at home, and I built this shed out the front of my house. And that's just another view. So that's my entry into it, and I'd run an electric cord out through the house window into the studio when I needed electricity. That's just a little view, sort of giving you a bit of a feel of the inside space, and that's looking through the front window, so you can see it was pretty tiny, but I was able to have my bench in there and ink up and my little press. This is the space that I moved out of, that was a walk up the street from home. So I felt that it was away from home, but in a way it was too close to home. I could nick home and do stuff, and that was good if I'd forgotten things, but it actually wasn't great in terms of having a real flow happening with the work. But this space was fantastic because it was so big. This shot is that it was at the end of my stay there. It's set up for a studio show, and so I had work out in the corridor as well as on the walls in my space. And then just looking in the other direction, and behind those cardboard walls is all the chaos and mess of works in progress and stuff that people didn't actually need to see. On the wall, works dealing with text and with the arrangement of text. They're large watercolours. The brown and black one is a watercolour. The blue ones on either side mixtures of watercolours and prints, and then the black one with the graphite surface is actually a print. And then this is the studio space that I moved into as an artist in residence through a local hospital. And it was that was the turning point for me in knowing that I really needed to have a space away from home. Came after using that little shed and it not really being big enough. I was painting on my back deck, which is fine in the summer, but obviously a bit restrictive during the cooler seasons. So this lovely little room at the hospice had a great view, and there's the view looking onto the Yarra Bend Park. Yeah, the Yarra is the river that runs through Melbourne. And then my project for this space was just simply to make paintings. So I took every single canvas and board and painting that I'd ever started into the studio so that I could just keep exploring paint and see what happened. I also wanted to use up things that I'd had lying around for ages. So I had a roll of paper and I did a lot of work on paper and put those works up on the wall. And you can see I've also got something on the the easel. So I like to work on the easel if it's a canvas or a board. I also like to obviously have things on the wall, and I like to work on the floor as well, which is why that old studio was fantastic, because I had the space to do all of those things, and why the small studio didn't quite work for me, not so much in terms of the floor space not being accessible, but more that I couldn't actually have large things on the walls because the walls weren't flat. They had lots of nails holding the boards up that were really annoying. And then this is the space that I currently have. This is the moving into the space shot with all my stuff. And this is pretty much how it is at the moment. I get beautiful morning light coming in that big window. It's pretty chaotic at the moment. There are a lot of images up on the wall from my end of financial year sale, but there's also a lot of junk in there from moving out of my house. So, or I should say putting the house up for sale. And then this shot is just the other side of the studio with prints up on the wall on the left that I took to Prague, and then there are digital prints below that I made when I had a residency over in Canada, and they are based on the map of the New York subway. And then there's another work that you might remember seeing from the old studio, the big colourful piece hanging up on the wall, which is made of plastic bags and is a comment on quilt making and consumerism using plastic bags from fashion stores. And then this is the little space next door to my studio, which I have now got my hands on, and it is full of stuff from home. So that left hand side is the storage space, and the right hand side is the storage space, and the left hand side is my functional, soon to be more functional space. In fact, I did clean it up today after I'd made the little movie that you saw at the beginning. And then this is what the house looks like now that the studio has gone. There's that empty space there, and sad. There are all the bits chopped up sitting on the back of the truck. So each space that I've had, I've learnt different things from them in terms of what I need in order to keep making work. And for me, having that space supports my creative practice, and I think it's really important that each of us discovers what that space is that we need, whether it is at home and being at home and staying connected to the family, or staying connected to whatever it is at home that's important to you, that might be supportive for your practice. For me, I found it too distracting. I would start doing domestic things and think that I could multitask, when really I just need that complete separation. And my current studio is actually about a 15-minute bike ride away from home, so it is like going to work. I could nick home if I'd forgotten something, but really when I'm there, I'm committed to staying there for a particular length of time and being really productive in that time. So yeah, it's been a really interesting evolution. And when I sell the house, there's going to be another evolution in terms of my relationship to my studio space. So it'll be interesting to find out what happens then. But yeah, it'd be great if people could comment about their own spaces and how they use them, and whether there's anybody there who actually does operate from a non-physical space in terms of how they perceive their studio. I think that's a really fascinating concept and something that I guess we all kind of do anyway. But to know more about that, I think that would be great. Okay, thank you.